For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Bradley. Welcome to a special super-sized edition of The Scribble, and hello to all of our friends in Winnipeg, because this week we're talking to you, everybody, with the civic election happening just in a few days. I thought it would be great to talk with the mayoral candidates. 8 of them are running to be mayor of the city. 7 of them are joining us today. One of them, unfortunately, we couldn't schedule a time. Now, I should point out that these interviews were all taped at the end of September, but Ed Ackerman was unable to participate that weekend and also in the days following. He said that he was an extra in a movie and also did not have a phone that he could make a call at a specific time. So Ed Ackerman was invited to participate in the show today, but did not make himself available. Now, the rules were simple when I chatted with all of the candidates. No mudslinging was allowed, and they needed to answer questions directly. As you're going to hear in the interviews ahead, that wasn't always the case. Now, originally the plan was to have a 1-hour podcast featuring interviews with all of the candidates, and they were going to be on the air for about 5 minutes each. Unfortunately, it ran a little bit long, as you can imagine. So we have some clips here today. Now, all of them, I believe, are edited for time, but we do have the full audio on our website at winnipegvotes.com. winnipegvotes.com. You can also get to that link through our main website, which is thescribbleshow.com. If you wanted to hear a full candidate interview, go to winnipegvotes.com. We're going to get into those interviews right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Candidate Don Woodstock is joining us now to talk about his campaign in the 2018 Winnipeg election. Hi, Don.
Hi, how are you, Jeremy?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good to hear. You know, as always, candidates are making big promises for their campaigns, and I know yours includes things like ending homelessness and reducing transit fares and essentially eliminating crime. Those are very, very big tasks. So I'd like you, we don't have time for you to elaborate on all 3 of them, but I know you were a transit operator before, correct?
That's correct.
Let's talk about transit then. Tell me the ins and outs of how you will fix Winnipeg Transit.
Well, the number one reason why there is a fare and there are incidents on the bus, and that leads to sometimes the riders not feeling safe on the bus, is the fare. And that has never been discussed before nor brought to the attention of the public before, because what the bureaucrats have done in the past is that they go into rooms and they make these decisions without even consulting the driver. As a driver for transit for 9 years, they have never consulted us and asked us what our opinion are of stuff. You know, what they do is they take advice from, you know, people in the bureaucratic red tape corners of their offices. So I feel strongly that if we reduce the fare, by 50 cents, it makes it more affordable for people, and it also relieves that stress of the trying to collect the fare, which put the danger on the onus of the driver.
So are you saying to me that...
Eventually what my ambition is,
I just
get the fare down to $2 and look at the management structure of transit I would be a very, very happy man, and I would move and I'll push towards that in every single way I can. And that's going to involve a little bit more subsidy on the part of the provincial government. It's going to depend on a little bit more subsidy on the part of the federal government, and it's going to depend on a little bit more tightening of the belt, so to speak. Instead of us buying diesel buses that we just did recently, we could have bought electric buses. And, by trying to eventually electrify the fleet, it's a cost-saving measure down the road. In fact, New Flyer, if you go on their website, New Flyer Industry will tell you that you pay a little bit more for the bus today, but you save after 5 years. You save tremendously, about 30 or 40%. So that's the kind of thinking that I'm hopeful that I could bring to the table, that saving mechanism down the road. We won't save it right away, but we save it long term.
Sure. So let me ask you then, because I just want to make it clear. To me, it sounds like you're equating higher bus fares with violence and as a safety issue. So is that what you're saying, that because bus fares are high, transit is an unsafe resource in Winnipeg?
Okay. Currently, the current model and the current way in which we do transit in Winnipeg, it needs to be safer. And one of the safer initiatives that I have put forward, instead of us hiring supervisors, more supervisors at $70,000, $80,000, I would hire first-year cop at $52,000, which have far more the arresting power and would give the rider a little bit more, way more confidence that if something was to happen on the bus, a plainclothes police officer might be just, be standing, sitting nearby. So, but the fear, yes, one of the number one concern, the number one issue that caused almost 95% or more of the incidents on the bus have to do with fears. That is a fact, which has never been brought to the light and brought to the attention because nobody wants to step on each other's toes or their nest egg.
So who did that?
And so that's why
Sorry, Don. When you make
let's reduce the fares.
Don.
Let's put go ahead.
When you make a claim like that, I need to know what your source of information is. When you're saying 95% of the incidents, who's your source of information for that?
9 years of driving Winnipeg transit bus in the city.
So that's not a Winnipeg police crime stat. That's not anything from an official. That's your figure.
Do you believe that every incident on the bus is reported to the police?
I'm just asking, when you give statistics and say percentages, I just need to know who said it, and that's all I'm asking. So what would be the solution, though, for making buses to run on time? Because that also seems to be the big concern. Yes, I want to be safe. I don't want to be stabbed on a bus, but I also want to get to work on time. What's the solution for making transit run on time?
Part of that also comes with because sometimes some of these buses, with all due respect and fairness, we sometimes have buses as drivers, we have to wait on the bus to be ready. There are days when the buses are ready and we can't go. There are times when the whole business of how we get the buses out. These men and women are doing a fabulous job behind the scene with the mechanics. But there are some underlying issues there too that we need to look at. The whole the whole efficiency of transit. Not from the management perspective, but from the worker perspective, need to be examined. And I think that is one of the things that I have said repeatedly, that what we need to be doing is start looking at these operations and look at the management structure and ask ourselves, what can we do to make sure that the buses are on time, but also what can we do to incorporate the ideas from the regular Joe that drives the bus, from the regular Joe that works in the office.
So tell me, what are your ideas, though?
With making the whole system efficient, because everybody have an idea how to do it. We just need to find the right mechanism and the right little tool to make it happen. And consultation with everybody, and not just the chosen few management, is going to make the difference. And that's what's missing.
Don, what is your idea then? Because talking to people isn't really an idea. That's something that most people do. So give me a specific example as to how you will make transit buses run on time. Talking to people doesn't make that happen.
No. Well, for one, you would get some ideas from the drivers. Talking to people is not the most important thing, but talking to the drivers.
But Don, what is your... That's
There are
fine.
some
Talk.
roads
I get
There
that.
are some roads that if the drivers had their input with how to make it better, then the drivers would be able to give you that input. They do not take advice from the drivers in terms of what could make the bus more efficient. Nobody asks the drivers. The people who make those decisions are not the drivers. It's somebody else in the office. And I am suggesting that the driver who have driven the route for the last 5 years, he or she may have an idea how to keep that bus on time. He or she may have some ideas. That is what is missing.
But what
talking to people is not the answer, but talking to the drivers.
Sure. So you were
in driving the buses on that road. Sign up after sign up, and if you drive a particular road for more than 2 years, you can have some ideas of how to make the system a little bit more efficient, and that is not happening.
So Don,
that's what I'm saying.
Right, but let me ask. Okay, so Don, I'm asking you as a former or as a driver, what are your ideas? You're telling me that you will ask people for their ideas, but you were a driver, so I'm asking you.
No, you're saying people. I would ask the bus driver. I'm
Okay.
a former bus driver.
But that's what I'm asking you, Don.
And I would talk to the bus driver.
So
every single route is different.
But what is your
Every
idea then?
single-
What is your? If I'm asking you as a driver, just as you're saying that you would ask drivers, I am asking you as a driver, what will you do? If a driver told you talk to drivers, that's not them helping you out. So tell me what your idea is. If I asked you today, I need to get from the North End to Transcona on time on the bus. How are you going to do that for me today, tomorrow? What are you going to do? Is that getting more buses on the road? Is that changing the traffic signal timing? You need to give me an actual answer to the question as to how you are going to make transit more efficient. Talking to people doesn't make it more efficient.
Yes.
Do you understand my question?
Transit, getting to places, getting from one point to the next in transit is as you say, talking to people doesn't make it happen. But if we're able to work with a collective view on the street of taking in consideration not just the motoring public that's around us, but also the amount of stops. There are some roads that we need to have more express services on. So depending on what time of the day you want to travel, there's a number. Having gone into the transit room itself, as one of the trainees and look at the whole system of transit, there are a number of factors that is going to play into the whole business of the, safety on time service. And that safety on time service is not something that I'm prepared to tell you that, I'm going to hire 10 more buses and it's going to be on time. It doesn't work that way. Not something I'm going to be able to tell you, I'm going to make sure that the lights are synced all the way from Portage Avenue to Portage from the University of Winnipeg down to Main Street is going to have to be synced. Those are also factors that you look at the overall route of transit, that if you have more consultation and with the view of let's hear from the people who are on the street, on the buses, in the driver's seat a little bit more, there's a good chance that you'll find a mix. It's not going to be a magic bullet, and there's nobody's going to tell you that you can, just by increasing the number of buses, going to make the buses go on time, or just by hiring more people. It doesn't work that way. I have been through hiring, seen a number of people come through transit and have left. I have seen a number of people come through transit and stay. I've seen the classes get bigger and smaller. The fact of the matter, it's a complex problem that requires a little bit more than me just throwing something at you and telling you, I need to get more buses on the road to make it on time. No, I don't believe then that was going to solve the problem.
I have a quote here. You say, "For many years I have offered practical, tangible, common sense approaches that have brought meaningful, positive, and significant changes for Winnipeggers." Can you give me one specific example?
Changing the name from Garbage Day to Recycle Day. I lobbied the city 2 years to make that happen. Today we're much better on the recycling part. You see recycling almost everywhere in Winnipeg.
There are a lot of community debates and forums for the candidates. I want to ask you about something that happened not too long ago, I guess. Did you dropped the microphone, you walked off stage. I wasn't there, so tell me what happened.
We have a mayor who was elected to serve the people, to look out for the needs of the people and to protect its citizens and its inhabitants and to keep them safe. And that's the role of the mayor and the mayor's office. And the candidate Bowman says he heard and know of this meth crisis when he first got elected. And what did he do? Absolutely nothing for 4 years. So when it got to 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%, when it's going through the roof, and the police union have tried for years, police department, they have tried for years to bring this attention to him, turn a blind eye to it, deaf ears. Now it gets to a point now where it's out of control, and it is actually reaching into Morden now. People from Winnipeg with meth problem is going to Morden to steal. I mean, at what point do we stop and say,
so tell me,
he's on stage lying.
Right, I do. So
lying about meeting, and I'm saying that no, that needs to stop. I mean, have a heart, Like I was willing to just say, you know what, man, this is not cool, and the media is there just watching this. I know that these guys have been asking over and over and over. I mean, two people mentioned the city councilor, Janet Lukes, come out and says, I can't even meet the guy. I haven't met the guy in 2 years. And we sit down and we allow this kind of conversation to go on as if he's telling the truth and everybody else is lying. No. Enough, man.
Okay, so
come on, we gotta do something about it.
Right, I need to
speak louder than words.
I need to move this. Need to move this along. So you walked out because you were frustrated with him and what he was saying, is what you're telling me?
Lying, deliberately sitting there and lying to the public, knowing that he took a sore note of office to protect. So I was prepared to, but Umar says, Don, just let it be. And I go, let me come back and sit down. So I did. I did resume my seat, but I didn't like the fact that he was just sitting there and lying. But yes, I shouldn't have got, let the emotions get the better of me. But meth has touched my family too, So I am seeing this upfront and personal.
But let me ask you, Don, though, because to me, though,
that I am witnessing upfront and personal.
Sure. So to me, though, at a forum like that, and let me just sort of kind of push back on you here, then. At a forum like that, in front of community members, these are voters, these are people who are looking to somebody to lead them, to be in charge. So I guess to me, and like I said, I was not there, I'm just reading the media accounts, that's why I'm asking you what happened. So to me, though, hearing that, I wonder, is that my leader is going to run in the face of adversity? And I mean run as though go into hiding, he's going to leave. How can people sort of feel, how can voters trust that you'll be there for them and not run away in the face of contention?
I didn't run away in the face of contention. I was prepared to excuse myself for the crap and the nonsense that people sit down and the media allow this guy to get away with. I wasn't prepared to be a part of it. That's what I did not want to be a part of.
But you know that...
As a result of that, as a result of my making a very emotional, according to some people, stunt about it, there are other people who are talking more about this and seeing this as, this is what he did. So I did draw some attention to it, Marco, a little bit negative, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is, why should we allow our elected representative to sit on stage and lie continuously, over and over again, not even one lie, about taking care of its citizens or taking action on a crisis like meth epidemic? Why?
So let me ask you then, because you know that as a mayor, you're going to be challenged from the left, right, up, down, backwards, forwards. You're going to be challenged every day and night. How are you going to deal with that? Because you can't control the media. You can't tell the newspaper what headline to write or what picture to take. So how are you going to make that balance work where you're not walking out on people?
Simple, because I wasn't walking out on people. I was walking out on a liar. I was walking out on the abuse and the total neglect. So let's say we have a meeting with all the police chiefs and the heads of councils and everybody, and all the councils are going to try and spread lies after lies after lies about a particular issue, and bare-faced lies. What, you think I'm going to just sit there and just let the meeting go on, or I'm going to stop it as the mayor? I'm going to go stop, guys. Let's keep it real.
Okay.
What you're saying is BS. Okay, let's get to the real heart of the matter here, because talking nonsense don't help nobody, and keep spewing off the lies don't help nobody, and all we're doing is that we're making it worse. So yes, I would love to have a mayor who's prepared to call it like it is, and to call the BS, and say enough of it, and say enough is enough, rather than pretend as if, we're going to work together, and no, man.
Right.
Family lives are being ripped apart.
Right.
People are dying while you sit on stage and you go home to your family and just keep lying about it and pretend nothing, answer needs to change. I'm not interested in that roundtable conversation at all.
Right.
No, I'm not.
Right, and I totally appreciate your sense of community and the passion that you have. Let's fast forward now. You are mayor. You're representing the people. In your first 6 months, I want to know, what has Don Woodstock accomplished? 6 months into your term, tell me what measurables you have achieved in 6 months.
Banning plastic bags and straws, inviting the environmental community to come here and set up shop. I give them all incentive there is so we can build our own recycling plant and hire some people and get some jobs. Wind, biodiesel, the whole 9 yards, methane gas harvesting. We have a Waverly West. We have Waverly West, a very large community, almost grown to the size of Brandon, and we have the Brady landfill across the street from it. And we never thought to harvest the methane gas from it to heat the homes and do something with it. Like it's backward thinking, electrification of our field. Winnipeg, Manitoba is the best place in the world based on studies that Red River College did that says that we are the best place in the world for electric vehicles. The first set of electric buses that was built in the city was built after my presentation to Jim Randolph.
So,
guys,
I need to know, so 6 months in, sorry, Don, 6 months in, I need you to answer. We're almost out of time. I need you, so specifically in 6 months, give me, in a few words only, what will have changed in Winnipeg?
Ending homelessness, because I would try to build, because it's cheaper to build homes for people than leave them on the street.
So,
the federal government, provincial government, and the city have the information that says if you put people into homes and provide services for them, it's cheaper for the taxpayers. There are several cities in Canada looking to do this. I would love Winnipeg to be the 8th.
So you're telling me that in 6 months you will end homelessness in Winnipeg. I want to know what you will have achieved, what you will have accomplished.
I will be on the track because I'm going to be building homes. I'm not going to be building, the two North Square and giving people millions of dollars of taxpayers' money. I'm going to put that money into building homes for people. Okay.
All right. And so very quickly, I want you to give everybody your campaign website address so they can look up more information.
It's Don Woodstock with the number 4 for mayor, .ca. That's Don Woodstock for mayor.
Well, I appreciate you making the time and answering my questions, Don, and good luck in the campaign.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Tim Dyack is on the line to talk about his run for mayor of Winnipeg. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
You know, we've had a bunch of people from different professions occupy the mayor's office, right? We've had a businessman, a lawyer. Tell me why a cop is the right choice.
I don't think a cop is ever a right choice for a political office. What I do think is that if you've got a cop or a police officer that has a varied experience, that portion of what makes them up, that being the police or law enforcement aspect, is a very handy tool when you have a 25% increase in the last 4 years in crime in Winnipeg. So, I mean, I am a police officer, but I also owned a couple of businesses, and I'm a father, and I have to say that half my career has been in community policing, which is a different approach. I don't just respond to calls. I get to know people and develop relationships.
Years ago, we heard that people say the city should be run like a business. So we elected a businessman, and it was scandal after scandal. I won't name names, but we know what I'm talking about. So I guess what comes to mind is, sure, a police officer can offer protection, as you say, and you're familiar with communities, but do I want Winnipeg run with a police mentality? Do you know what I mean? Like, it sounds militaristic. So
exactly what you mean.
So put my mind at ease, because it sounds militaristic. Am I wrong?
You are wrong.
Okay.
Militaristic depends on your preconception of what law enforcement is all about. And I can't speak for every other jurisdiction. What I can tell you is that effective policing isn't strong on crime, it's smart on crime. And you have to think about the origins, the motivation, what fuels the crime. And I like to think that in a good business, you take care of the people that work for you and you provide good customer service. My business background, and I had two small businesses that are still running today. They're 22 years later. They're doing very well. But I like to think that if I treat all people like a customer, you're earning the trust of people. And in my profession as a police officer, earning trust of people has provided large dividends, huge dividends. And you build teams, you build those relationships. I don't see that being done at City Hall right now. In fact, I know they're not being done at City Hall, and I know that that's a recognized weakness. I just prefer a little more honesty, or a lot more honesty. I prefer, I hear the word collaborative a lot. I don't see a lot of it. I like team building. I like people to have trust, and that's when you can make progress.
And, we know historically there are areas of the city where more crime happens and that are more dangerous. So how do you, or I guess, is it possible to fix everything everywhere? It's one thing to have relationships and communicate and collaborate and do things, but as you say, I mean, let's be honest, when I see the police media releases, it sure as hell looks like there's more and more violence in Winnipeg. So it's one thing to lessen it, and it's one thing to stop it. So how do you realistically fix everything everywhere? That seems like it's a very, very big job.
I've been at that job for over 30 years now, and you sound like most of the young guys or girls that I have to drive around and start to introduce parts of the job to. I always answer it the same way, and if you're from Winnipeg, you'll understand. I don't need to kill all the mosquitoes. I just got to kill the ones that are kind of in my gazebo. And we'll treat Winnipeg like a gazebo. I don't need to take care of all the world's problems, but we can sure get it to a manageable degree. You're never going to remove crime. Crime's been there as long as we've had people that want something from somebody else and don't care about justice. It's essentially how we're defining it. When I think about how would I, as a mayor, resolve a lot of these problems, I would like to get things moving in a different direction rather than a spiraling increase. I work in Point Douglas, which is an area that you're referring to. And a quick Google search, and it will bring you up to speed, that Point Douglas has double the crime rate of Compton, California. I don't know how they measure that. I can just tell you that I sure am used to the violence. I am sure used to the despair that I see. There is spirit, and there are good people, but they're overwhelmed right now because even good people that make poor choices, methamphetamine is an issue that we have now, and it's not forgiving. You can be functional if you're an alcoholic. You can be functional if you have a pill addiction. You can be functional even for a certain degree if you have a cocaine addiction. There are no functional methamphetamine addicts. And they are, you're familiar with a non-contact order. That's when the court intervenes and allows you to have a court order where the judge says, you stay away, A stays away from B. The concern I have is people aren't paying attention to how many mothers are getting non-contact orders on their children. By that, you have to think there is no greater intervention than the state coming by and saying, we don't want you coming by your mom anymore. That's what methamphetamine is. I go to these town hall meetings, and the CBC and other news outlets will host them, and I watch my chief of police stand in front of an audience and say he's losing sleep and that the future looks bleak. I think we've got to pay attention. There's nothing more discouraging than when your chief law enforcement officer is exasperated and gives language that sounds like he's given up hope.
So it sounds like you disagree with the way your boss runs things, so now you want to become the boss, but higher up.
It certainly does, but that's not it. And I've made that very clear. The chief of police must allocate police resources. It can't be done by somebody like myself who thinks he can do it better, and it certainly can't be done by a bunch of politicians that are talking to unknown experts. What I would bring to it is I would change the values, and I would start to listen to the people. We polled that 62% of people put safety, crime, as their number one concern. And we have, civic governance here that says, no, it's potholes. Well, municipal elections are usually potholes or police, and right now it's weighing very heavily towards police. And our current mayor won't even sit down and talk with our administration in any meaningful way. And he says that he meets with our police association, which is essentially the union end of the law enforcement part, and he hasn't. They keep meetings, they keep minutes of meetings, they document these things, and he hasn't met for 4 years.
So I guess the question that comes to mind...
Mayor, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. So the question that comes to mind, though, is that if you point out that you say that you hear the word collaboration and community and all those things, but you're not seeing it, and it's smoke and mirrors or it's just talking points, I guess it kind of is like, well, then how can people believe you if that's what everybody does? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I could put a plug in and say if you go to my website, you can see how I break down all of the things that are bogging down our system.
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll just go to diacformayor.ca. We don't have enough time here to go down all of the issues that could be addressed. Mm-hmm. That's not a chief of police thing. That's not a police board thing, and that's a whole bring together all stakeholders. I put a little bit of blame, and I apologize that we haven't met, so I don't mean any malice by this, but I put a little bit of the blame on where we are now on the lack of effective media.
Okay.
We do not get a grasp of actual problems. One, we've become indifferent, and we like to have things quickly done on a tweet. I really probably could learn a whole lot by talking shorter and more to the point. I get that. But the thing that's lost is that we have maybe 2 journalists in this entire city, and they're overwhelmed. We switched. I didn't pay attention. We switched to going to scrambled police radios, and there's no longer scanners. We need to have journalists embedded. We need journalists informed. And we need the public to be informed with accurate, timely information. How is that the mayor's responsibility then? Tell me, you will hire journalists? I don't understand. No, I will make sure that every media outlet that's, that would include people with blogs or anyone else with an interest, but they have to be licensed and bonded. I don't want to give an advantage to criminals, but they need to be able to have a police scanner to hear exactly what's going on and recognize these trends. We were caught off guard. We've had a buildup. I've been making methamphetamine trafficking arrests for about 20 years now. And in the last 4 years, every year it's doubled down. Like it's just spread. And now we're in an election, and only now, and I've had long-term relationships with people in addictions treatment, and some of my arrests that I've maintained, 10-year relationships with, because that's been my job. And they cannot believe that it's taken this long for people to recognize the prime motivation for the crime. The property crime is out of control in Winnipeg.
On your website, on your website, your wife, you say, is a teacher for the Winnipeg School Division. My mom has worked at Faraday School for 20-some years. My brother at Churchill. My sister-in-law at Andrew Minarski. She's a teacher. So you talk about food and nutrition as a way to start to fix the problem. Tell me how the city is involved in that. I'm sort of confused. What is City Council's responsibility in feeding children in a school or at home?
This is one of the things that I've encountered in politics, and you hit it right on the head there. They go, that's not your lane. Well, when I can touch a child that's too hungry to learn, it's in my lane. And if I have to bear witness and get other political, like if it's the province's responsibility, well, then I go down to the guy's office and I say, this is the problem right here, right now. And I've seen this time and time again since we started this campaign, that they deflect and they don't answer the question. It is, and it's blunt. This isn't a left or a right issue. It's a simple issue of economics. You either feed them in school or you feed them in prison. And that's a blunt and harsh way of looking at it, and I get it, but it alleviates people from arguing, well, why would I pay for that? Well, kids don't learn if they're not fed. And a peer-reviewed study done, and I'm going to say Guatemala, but it was somewhere in Central America, and I'm at a Christmas party 2 years ago with a girl that I used to go to school with, talking to her, and she says, I was down there doing this study, and it's almost a third. The kids are almost a third more likely to graduate if you give them a breakfast program. Well, in the core area of Winnipeg, where I am all the time, we have truancy that's, I think it's 7 times greater than it is out in Charleswood. How do you expect somebody to dig themselves out of poverty and dig themselves out of being marginalized if you don't give them a decent education? And if you don't give them a safe place to interact with other kids? After school programs and lunch. And putting cops in school is not the answer. The teacher, your mom, my wife, your brother, your sister, they have to be a role model for these kids. They need to see what a decent, high-functioning, engaging, lovable adult is.
And so let's say that let's say then that you do approach the province and you say, hey, look, the city needs to be involved in this. Hey, kick rocks. This isn't your responsibility. What do?
Well, I identify that person that tells me to kick rocks, and I make sure they bear the political responsibility. I don't care if I do it, just as long as it gets done. Mm-hmm. This is the problem. I see the William White School. It's in my area. Mm-hmm. The breakfast program is suffering. They don't get a good enough nutrition. They'll argue, but I think we need to be able to say, I don't want any argument. We cannot have a compromise here. I know what the root causes of criminality are always going to be the big ones. I mean, there's exceptions for sure, but the big ones are poverty. And the other big one is addiction, which a lot of the time comes with poverty. I'm not a soft guitar and sock puppet type of police officer. Believe me, I've done a lot of arrests. A quick research will show I've been involved with the worst that our city has to offer. I'm not complaining. I'm not trying to redeem myself for it. It's just the evidence. And the evidence is clear. We have to take care of these impoverished kids if there's going to be any chance. Each subsequent generation produces crime and is eroding our community. This isn't unique to Winnipeg by any means.
Right. And so there's no questioning that you understand the safety and streets of Winnipeg. And if there's one area where maybe you can say you have an advantage over the other candidates, it's this. I'll give you that. But tell me then where you might see yourself struggling as a mayor. Are you an expert on construction or public transit or city planning? So what is one...
No expertise.
Okay, so what is one area that you can honestly say, hey, you know what, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm definitely going to do my best to get there as mayor?
I've had a lot of experience in small business. I sat on the St. James bids. I understand a lot of that. So I'm not weak there. In fact, I would say exceed the other candidates.
Okay, so I'm asking where you are. Where can you say, I know that I'm not an expert, but I'm going to try?
This is in taxation. When we talk about, he's projected a 2.33% property tax increase over the next 6 years, or subsequent each year for 6 years. I'm not an expert, but I do know that provided the numbers, I mean the CAO and the other people that are involved in the city, we can look at ways to reduce that number. So I'm not an expert, but I do know that I can have the numbers that have been compiled by the expert because I've watched expertise come down the pipe in my position as a police officer, and it's nowhere near the direction that we should be going. And everybody just accepts that we can't fix or change that. I'm not accepting that. So when I talk about taxation, I'll go, yeah, I'm not going to be able to dazzle you with my talk of taxation. I will be able to tell you that short order, we'll be looking at reducing or freezing some of those taxes and still achieving those objectives, because the real problem is the waste of money that's done within the organization we call the City of Winnipeg. And every person on the ground, every person that uses their hands and is on the front line goes, this is ridiculous. We could do this 4 times faster and cheaper. I'll give you one example. If I told you that I use a pen and a paper to write stuff down, and then I drive back to a police station where I use a scanner, a fax machine, and a landline to complete a small report, you'd go, you got to be kidding me. I'd say no. And I work with young guys who go, what the hell's a fax machine? They've never seen one. It looks like it came out of the technology museum. But that's how we do our job. And that unfortunately, that sort of depleted or neglected data infrastructure permeates throughout the entire city. So I would say that the efficiencies that are found by the people actually doing the job need to be collected, and we need to revamp how we're doing the job. And it doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to figure out that's going to be a huge savings. And that savings will be passed on to all of us that keep paying for it. And with those savings, we get improved service. So, yeah, my taxation might be weak, but that's on a course that's been provided by people who are continuing to support a system that is so grossly inefficient.
We're almost...
Like to make that efficiency better, drop a lot of the costs that we have, and have people at work respect it. Because if you don't respect the worker, they're not going to respect the workplace, and everything suffers. It's just inefficient and expensive.
Right, we're almost out of time. We've had a school theme going for this chat, so I want to end on that kind of a note. I want you to give me a letter grade for the current state of the city 4 years after you've been mayor. So what grade would you give Winnipeg Transit now, and what will it be after your 4 years? What grade from A to F?
C+ right now. A lot of challenges, safety being one of them. That's the primary one that people mention, and I know how to fix that. It's on the website, but it's essentially just a live feed panic button for the buses. I could be right beside a bus where a driver's being assaulted or a guy holding a knife. I have no clue that it's going on. But if you hit the button that goes right to my screen with video, I know exactly what's going on. That'll pay for itself in 15 minutes actually, and people will take the bus, and that'll be better. So I'm going C+ right now. We implement that simple, and I don't know how long it would take to do our 640 buses with it, but we implement that one simple attachment. We're going to go up to about a B+. And then when we look at the electrification of buses and that we manufacture them here and that we have all these challenges, we have a huge spread out city, we got smart people, and electric buses are allowed to go right inside of a building. So if you're from Winnipeg, could you imagine not having to put a parka on to take a bus to go to, say, Polo Park or downtown because it parks right inside? Nobody's going to be using their cars to go to these places if we can provide A+ service. So in 4 years, I'd like us to be A+ or a couple of days away from A+.
All right.
Progress and a showcase for the world.
Sure. What grade would you give the state of Winnipeg roads now, and what will the roads be 4 years later?
Right now, our roads, based on Winnipeg grades, like if we're going to mark on a grade for other cities, we're sitting at a C-. But if we mark it on a grade for what we've had and what we've done in the past, we've dumped a pile of money, and even though it's slowed down everything with the construction sites, a lot of our roads look great. So I'm going to have to go B-, B, maybe even B+ if we're grading right on Winnipeg, but we're still lagging behind the rest of the country when it comes to road quality.
All right.
That's just because we're built on clay.
One more time, give us your campaign website address to check out.
It is diakformayor.ca.
Well, Tim Diak, thanks for undergoing my interrogation. I appreciate your time today.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
All right, well, the countdown to the Winnipeg civic election is on, and current mayor Brian Bowman is joining us on the line to talk about the campaign. Hello there, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm sort of debating, should I call you Mr. Mayor or Brian? I guess for the purposes of this...
Brian.
Okay.
I prefer Brian.
Sure.
Been my name before I was mayor, it'll be my name after.
Now, I guess a lot of it comes on to when you're the incumbent, you're kind of being held to the fire because people are now throwing back at you things that you have or have not done over the past 4 years. So, and let me just say, some of that you inherit because you've had it from previous administrations. It's not necessarily something you did. Looking at the current state of this city after the past 4 years, where do you feel, one, the current administration has exceeded people's expectations, and two, where has the administration fallen short for Winnipeggers?
That's a great question. And you know what? This is democracy, and in a democratic country like Canada and in the city of Winnipeg, voters ultimately have their say, and they're always right. And so, when you're running for re-election, you're right. There is an opportunity for voters to assess whether your reapplication for the job is worthy of their consideration. And so I'm working really hard to earn the confidence of Winnipeggers once again. In terms of where did we do a good job and where do we need to continue doing work? I mean, we did inherit a city hall that was really a mess. It was a city hall where we had scathing audits, police investigation, and just the trust between City Hall and the public was really at an all-time low. And so we had a formidable job, myself as well as the new council. It was the largest council turnover, I think, in Winnipeg history. to really re-earn that trust and to get things back on the right track. And I think we've done that. We've definitely set City Hall and got the city on the right track. And my main vision in entering public life was to grow the city to 1 million people strong. And so when I was elected, we had 698,000 residents, and today we're over 750,000 for the first time in our history, and we're growing each and every day. And so citizens are voting with their feet and their families and their future by investing in Winnipeg. And so some of the larger tasks at hand that I think we've been very successful at is opening up City Hall and making it much more open and transparent. It's been recognized by the Open Cities Index. We're now ranked 3rd in the country. And then also just, taking care of the business of government, starting with fixing our roads, investing in public transportation, as well as building active transportation networks. And then lastly, just enhancing our pride in who we are as a community. And really that comes down to all of the reconciliation work, all of the really just celebrating and promoting diversity and immigration in the city, and really just better celebrating who we are and raising our visibility here at home as well as abroad. And we saw that obviously during the Winnipeg whiteout parties during the Jets playoff run, but we've also done a great job as a community during the Canada Summer Games, as well as the Heritage Classic and the successful Grey Cup early in my term. And so we've got more work to do, and the areas where I think we have more work to do is really is continuing on that, building on that positive momentum. And so, we still have a huge infrastructure deficit to tackle. We've lowered it from $9.9 billion to $6.9 billion, which is enormous and is something that I'm really proud of. But at the same time, $6.9 billion is still, $6.9 billion. And so we've got more work to do at fixing our roads. We are going to be, I think, really transforming our public transportation system in a way that hasn't occurred in a generation. And so we're looking at high-frequency networks, the further electrification of our fleet, and just making further improvements to the transit service, and then building our active transportation on our award-winning active transportation strategy. And so more work to do on public safety, of course. We're dealing with the meth crisis here like other cities in Canada, and we're going to continue to support greater mental health and addictions support in the community, and just building our community centers with major reinvestments there, as well as what I want to do is really take our human rights infrastructure and ecosystem that we've got here in Winnipeg and raise our profile internationally and make Winnipeg an international leader in the protection and promotion of human rights. So that's not just a marketing thing, that's also making sure we're walking the walk here in the community for the protection and promotion of human rights.
When last we spoke in the summer, and to let everybody know, you called in on my birthday show and surprised me, but since then, something jumped out at me. Through September, I see these stories. There's a number of violent crimes. I read 3 homicides in 3 days. Liquor store robberies getting violent. Statistically, we hear crime happens more in the summer months when people are out longer and the weather's nicer, things like that. Is that the case here? Do Winnipeg's crime numbers concern you right now?
They do, and you know what? I wish I could say otherwise, but we're seeing the rate of or the increase in crime in rural Manitoba is rising at a much higher rate than Winnipeg. But that should be of concern to all Manitobans. But we also are dealing with a crisis right now in Winnipeg with regards to meth, and this isn't unique to Winnipeg. But it is resulting in higher crime rates. It's also taking up resources from our police that wouldn't have to be used had the mental health and addiction support, had it been stronger, and if it were stronger, we would be able to free up those resources and not only reduce crime but free up resources. And so I've led an initiative to create a tripartite task force with all 3 levels of government: the federal, the provincial, and the municipal government. We've supported the Bruce Oak Recovery Center for addictions. We've supported the Main Street Project expansion, and we're going to continue to look for ways that we can work with community stakeholders. I announced during this campaign a community safety and crime prevention fund, which will provide $400,000 for community groups in every corner of the city. Because quite often, our police service is enjoying the largest police budget in its history. It's 27% of our budget right now, and we are growing the support for the police service in a more sustainable way. But the community also has a role to play, and so we've got groups like the Bear Clan and downtown foot patrols. We also have other areas of our city that are telling me they want enhanced lighting, or maybe they'd like, the expansion of their own foot patrols. And so we wanted to create this fund to make those dollars available in communities based on what the needs are of a respective community. And then the last thing I'll just say is I'd like to redirect. Right now, the only union that has pensionable overtime that can count to your, overtime can count towards your pension is the police union. And so I want to bring that union's that practice in line with every other union that we have. And I want to redirect those funds to frontline policing. That'll free up about $1.5 million. And I think that would be greater value to Winnipeggers and safety to make those funds available for the Winnipeg Police Service. That would be the equivalent of between 10 and 15 new city police officers if that were the operational decision of the Winnipeg Police Service under the authority of the police board.
Let me ask you a question, because when I asked you if the crime concerns you and you said yes, I kind of thought, if I hear the mayor saying that, then is that him admitting we've either failed, we haven't lived up to the expectation? Because as we know, if you're the leader of, let's say, a company and there's a big miss, sometimes you have to take the fall, and you have to fall on your sword for that. So I guess what I'm asking is, does that make Winnipeggers look at the current police chief, mayor, everybody who's in charge? Does that make them look and say, hey, you guys all failed us? Is that a good way of looking at it, or no?
Well, no, I don't think so, because firstly, our chief of police does outstanding work, and so do the members of the Winnipeg Police Service. I mean, they do an incredible service to the city, and they put themselves in great harm for the work that they do. And so what's happened historically in Winnipeg is we've really increased the police budget at an unsustainable rate. And unfortunately, if at the rate of increase, if there was a corresponding drop in crime, then I would say, well, let's just put more money into it. But the reality is that a great number of the calls for service have to do with mental health and addictions, and the only reason those calls are being made is because the long-term support for mental health and addictions, they are not being met in the community. And so we can continue to throw money in an unsustainable way at the police service and not get the results we want, or we can provide more sustainable increases to the police, but also really put our energies at helping citizens that need help that aren't getting it right now. And so what I want to do is, we've called for this tri-level task force with other levels of government. We really need everybody with putting greater focus and energy into mental health and addictions, and that's what we're hearing from our chief of police, and that's what we're hearing from other levels of government as well. And so we got to all work together. We got to sit in the same room, and we got to map out how we provide those supports, and that's something I'm leading the charge on.
Right. And again, I just wanted to clarify to everybody is that I'm not saying that or suggesting you failed as mayor. I'm just asking the question. I'm just putting it out there as that. So there's a big debate, as we know, about Portage in Maine. People are either really set against it or really for it. It's kind of, there's no in between, I guess, in a way. But my question is, if it's not a pressing issue that impacts the average Winnipegger day in and day out, let's say my 90-year-old grandmother who doesn't go downtown, what is the benefit? Like, what percentage of Winnipeggers will this affect, and why spend the time, money, resources to do it if it's not a huge issue for everybody?
Well, you're right. It is a polarizing topic, and part of leading is also knowing when to listen, and I'm doing that during this plebiscite. So Winnipeggers will get their say, and I'm going to respect the outcome regardless of how Winnipeggers vote. I'll be voting for it to be opened. I think it has many benefits to the city, and one of the main ones is obviously it creates a more accessible, pedestrian-friendly downtown. But for those residents that don't come downtown, and I think that's a great question, for those residents that live in the suburbs, for instance, and don't go downtown, the question you're raising is, well, why should they support it being open, and why would they support an investment being made to have it open? And the short answer is this. We have every single property owner in the Portage-Main area, all of the property owners there, telling us that this is important for their business development and their investment plans. We have a $165 million investment with the largest and tallest skyscraper in Winnipeg's history being built right now. This is the Artist development. And we have property owners, including 201 Portage Avenue, saying they want to make more investments in the area, which will increase the tax base significantly in a smart way that will raise more revenues for the municipality. And that's smart growth because it increases the density. And by doing that, with the hundreds of millions of dollars that are being invested, that helps us keep property taxes down for everybody else. And so when you've got businesses that are looking at making the massive investments that they want to make in downtown, and they're telling us that this is important for their business development effort, and we know it's going to raise millions of dollars in taxes for us, that helps me keep property taxes affordable for everybody else. And that's perhaps one of the greatest reasons for people who don't come downtown to support it.
So if Brian Bowman is elected now again for the next 4 years, is it going to be costing me more to live in Winnipeg?
Well, my property tax plan is one of the few that any mayoral candidate has issued. Advance polls open on Monday, October 1st, and I'm the only candidate to date that's issued a tax plan, if you can believe it. My tax plan is consistent with the last 4 years. I plan, if given the mandate, to continue with stable, predictable property tax increases of 2.33%. Provided there's no provincial downloading or regulatory impositions on the city of Winnipeg. And what that means is that 2.33% is 100% dedicated. It's an open, transparent increase, and all of that money goes to infrastructure, 2% of which goes to fixing the roads, and 0.33 goes to funding the second phase of rapid transit. And so I've also introduced, with council support, multi-year budgets. And so I want to have that predictability for people, and so that they know well in advance what those rates are going to be. But the 2.33 is part of what's supporting a $1 billion roads repair plan over the next 6 years. And without that 2%, that road plan, that really unprecedented historic investments in roads is at risk. And so that's why the 2% is important. And it's dedicated, it's open, it's transparent. People can see what they're getting for it when they're driving on the roads, and they're seeing all the construction that we have right now.
Simple question here, and before we went on the air, I mentioned to you that we're not here to mudsling and I don't want any names, but what sets you apart from the other candidates?
Well, I've got a demonstrated track record over the last 4 years of growing our city from 698,000 to 750,000. I don't think anybody has seen or witnessed the road repairs in our history that you've seen over the last 4 years. And we've also tried to, what I've tried to do is just inject a little more civility and common sense at City Hall. We don't have that negative style politics that you see elsewhere or that we had in the previous administration. It's, we don't always agree on public policy decisions, as is always the case in a democracy, but we're dealing with issues now. We're dealing with the substantive issues of governing, fixing roads, active transportation, public safety, pride and reputation in our city. These are the debates we should be having as a community, because I certainly don't have a monopoly on good ideas, but I know the community does. And, I've tried to represent Winnipeggers in a respectful and honorable way, and I'm hoping to have the opportunity to continue leading the city that I love.
And, the election campaign is sort of like one long job interview, really. And so I want to ask you a question that someone applying for a job gets asked, and we've sort of touched upon your strengths, but tell me one of your strengths and one of your weaknesses as a leader.
Well, I like to think that one of my strengths is that I treat people with respect of all backgrounds and all positions. We don't always agree, but I try to act in a respectful way. I try to think that brings out the best in people, and it brings out the best ideas for our community. In terms of weaknesses, I get a little sensitive when people put down Winnipeg, and so I tend to react swiftly and firmly when people put down the city, not just during CFL season, but throughout the year. And so it's something I put a lot of energy into.
If you can describe your campaign in one word, what would it be?
It's ambitious. It's ambitious for the city. I'm setting us on that path for 1 million. It's a clear vision of looking forward and growing the city, and I would say it's an ambitious or positive campaign.
Well, I appreciate your time. Let's get your campaign website in here for a second.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. It's bowmanforwinnipeg.ca, and that's where you've got all of the funding announcements or campaign promises. They're all costed, and people can check them out. There's human rights announcement, public safety, community centers, taxation, and many more to follow in the coming weeks. But bowmanforwinnipeg.ca.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I wish you luck on the campaign. Brian Bowman, thanks so much for calling in.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for interviewing everyone. I appreciate there's some good candidates, and they've got some good ideas, so I think that's great that you're interviewing everybody.
Great. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Doug Wilson is on the line to talk about his campaign to be Winnipeg's next mayor. Hello there, Doug.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm loving it. The sun's out. You know, that's what we live for in Winnipeg.
Well, it's true, and that means when it's cold, there's no mosquitoes too, right?
You got that one. You're from here.
I 30-some years, in Winnipeg. Now, let's talk about this, because with the mayor election, you've got all these people who have not been mayor. I'm looking at some notes here. You have been a mayor before, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell me about that.
There is Canada's newest city just southwest of Winnipeg, city of Morden. Morden's been around an awfully long time. They built the courthouse back in the turn of the last century, to get some law and order in the southwest part of the province of Manitoba, still just before the World War and all that. And it was a real centerpiece of government back then. The land titles office was down there, and there was the business. But by the 60s, there had been this sort of stagnation that was still present when I was elected mayor in 2006. And what had happened was there had been a bit of a circling of the wagons, and all the businesses had decided they didn't want any new business, and there had been some things that had happened. And what happened was I was asked by the fire chief at the Corn and Apple Festival, which is a great festival. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a really nice place. But he says, Wilson, and my wife and I had been there for 5 years. We moved there so she could teach. She got her teaching certificate. And he says, Wilson, I say, what? He says, I want you to run for mayor. And I looked and I thought, well, what am I supposed to say? It's the fire chief. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so away we went on this path to run for mayor in a city that we'd been in for 5 years. And it turned out that the city of Morden, wanted change. And they didn't want change coming in a screaming, yelling, conspiracy kind of change. They wanted change from somebody who was going to come in and talk and discuss and reweigh all the different priorities and look at being more open for business. And that was my slogan. We're open for business. So I got elected. I got about 70% of the vote. The council was surprised and shocked and a little offended that I jumped ahead of the line of everybody. There was some adjustment, but I did have a wonderful person by my side who kept me grounded and said, Doug, go in there and just do what you do, which is work with people, work on consensus. It's a thing that just sort of makes sense. When you get everybody working in agreement, there's more momentum. Well, this happened, and what council found out was they were all part of the process and all part of the leaders because of this consensus-based government. Businesses were treated with a professional manner, that there was an economic development officer put in place so that businesses could talk to somebody other than the mayor, because the mayor is really supposed to be talking to the public. He's not supposed to be doing the business. He's supposed to be helping set the course with council. So there were some redirections. There was some really good growth. There was a relationship, a healthy relationship between the developers, the housing developers, the retail developers. The kids started getting excited about their town, and when they finished school, they came back to Morden, and they started opening up businesses on the main street. The province, we worked with the province to bring a palliative care home that had been slated for rebuilding for more than 25 years, and we got that project on the rails, and it is built today in a whole new area on the east side of Morden, where there's this nice retail complex, and there's this great subdivision that's being built with some affordable housing. Wow. Very exciting. It was the time of my life. Unfortunately, I did lose my wife, a very difficult part of my life, where she was diagnosed with leukemia, but she passed away halfway through my term, and it sort of sealed me further on to the notion that, you know, business is about business, and money matters, but it's really about people. Everything we do is about people. So we really got a lot done. I feel very grateful for the time that I spent in Morden and for with all the people. But I did have to go because it was really tough being a widower at 47, and I had to come back to my hometown, the city of Winnipeg, and really make a plan to do something here that sort of put me in a new breath of air, new light. And this opportunity came along, and people started supporting me, and we've had a grassroots movement here, and it's moving along quite fine. I feel there's good momentum, and I think this is a very exciting election year. I don't know, what do you think? I'm doing all the talking.
I am, and we're out of time already, really. But yeah, we've got to keep the answers quick. I do appreciate the story, but we're already at 6 minutes here. So
wow.
Let me ask you then, do you think being a mayor is cookie cutter? And what I mean by that is, if you're able to manage a small city, is it a big leap to run a larger city? Like, what do you see as being similarities and what might be your challenges?
There is a reality to looking at the bigger picture and understanding that you can't get as close to you can sometimes feel too far away from the actual, where the rubber meets the road. I believe that because I've done it in a smaller climate, that we can take the direction and employ it and have a connection to that where the rubber meets the road. So I think there's an advantage to me having done it on a smaller budget. The numbers do match. We spend a percentage of police. We spend a lot less on police, but the numbers do match up. Parks and Rec, health, and infrastructure, roads, they all cost the same. So I was with the mayor of Toronto for a couple of the forums he had, and one of the things that we ascertained to the public was that sometimes you just add a few zeros to the back of the ledger, and really it's the same books. So yes, it does relate. It does translate.
So looking at your platform here, you clearly lay out the vision for Winnipeg, and honestly, I think it's spelled out more than most other candidates. But I wonder how you come up with priorities for that list. For instance, priority 1, economic development; 2, public safety; 3, community development; 4, civic government restructuring; and 5, infrastructure, transportation; 6 is land, property, and housing. So how do you rank those in order of importance? What was the criteria?
Well, the criteria is that we do know that there are cities that are caving in the States, and it's partly because there's not a business factor, that people aren't working, and so the cancer begins. So we did put economic development up at the top because it affects all levels. If we have people with jobs, if we have people with income, then we have a healthier city instantly. We can start addressing homelessness at a level where it's effective. And this has been proven to occur successfully in other communities, and we can build off of that. But it does require economic development. And I believe the most innovative historically, Canada, Winnipeg is the small business center of Canada. We've been doing that for many years. In the 80s, we had 80% of our business was 20 people or less. Today, it's 50 people or less. but it's still a high level of diversity, and small business brings big business. So there's our number one platform. Also, I really believe in what the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce does with their Bold Winnipeg platform. And Economic Development Winnipeg lists Winnipeg as one of North America's most competitive locations for manufacturing, highly skilled workforce, lowest published electricity rates in North America. So we got to get this message out, and the city will grow, and people will benefit from that.
Right. And earlier in the show, we were talking with Brian Bowman, and I asked the current mayor if he's concerned with the crime rate in Winnipeg, and he said that yes, he is in fact concerned with it. So you've been a mayor, you've worked, and you've shuffled around and made changes to police departments. What is your solution? I mean, I know there's no one blanket answer, but if you were to give me 3 very brief actions that you'll take,
yes.
How are you going to fix the Winnipeg Police Service?
So the Winnipeg Police Service deals with a lot of calls tied to child and family services. The calls are tied to a provincial body that has a mandate at this point to be changing the way they do their work for the children of this city. This is very important because this is going to free up some of the time that the police force needs to take on new, more proactive roles in the community. A second aspect is where our methamphetamine crisis, that's specifically here in our city, needs to be looked at in a way, in a fashion, that allows the police to be able to go back to the chores that they have. And what I believe is there can be a force that allows us to deal with these people that are in psychosis. I don't want us to think that there is a benefit to arresting people and putting them in jails. I believe that we have to get the methamphetamine psychosis unit together so that we can get them off, and this will take them more time for the police force to be doing more proactive work and getting out to the community, to being policing the way they want to. And the third part is there is a movement to take police and get them into that more proactive mode. And I believe that if the police force is on the buses in a patrol kind of fashion, that we can again reconnect the police to the people that they're serving, and this will accomplish an awful lot in this city.
I need to know your thoughts on delivering messages by Twitter and social media. Obviously, we see a certain president does that a lot. But what will be your communication methods? Because you have a connection to media, I know that, with the Free Press.
Thank you very much.
I
really, really would love to be just pouring out all the messages to the Free Press and to the CBC and to the CTV and all the local, let's call them the big media, although they're not really the big media anymore. I do believe that presence, I'll be making use of that through press releases in the coming weeks. But what I have relied on is going back to the grassroots, and I do have a history on Facebook. I've been on Facebook a long time. So there's my natural one. I have to get on Twitter. I have to get on Instagram. I have to reach out in these next few weeks so that they get the message. I believe that my team will help me do that very well, but I do think that it's been a fascinating race. There are 2 lead candidates in the papers, and I believe that maybe there are candidates that have more traction in the grassroots level. I've been out an awful lot in the public, meeting people at forums, learning about our different community groups so that we can be connected, that when the candidate that has done the most homework and gets the most votes gets elected, that there is a contact with the organizations that actually turn the wheels in the city. I'm saying that government does not need to think it's at the front of the bus. Government is what serves the people. It's the businesses that make the city run. It's the communities that make the city cultured. And government needs to know that it's in a servant mode. So I'm believing that there's a certain aspect to that that's going to hold true.
What's your priority then? Having the media relay your messages, or you personally sending it out to the people through social media?
I've been very fair with the media, and they've been conciliatory with me. They would like to hear more, I think, is what they intone. But for entertainment purposes, they like to write that that I haven't got a position. But the truth is that I haven't given them press releases and I will start to do so that they can be involved. I don't believe that the press has done as well as they could do. The big press. I believe that your podcast is on the right path. I believe that there's an awful lot of really good debates going on. And I don't believe anyone has ill intentions, but some people are writing for the election to sell their brand. And that's part of life, isn't it? You know that.
I do know that. Now, so you mentioned the Free Press. I, of course, have a connection to the Free Press. Give me the front page headline of your first big accomplishment as mayor. What's the headline?
Of my first big accomplishment as mayor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, because I just mentioned that I haven't really been thinking about the press for this term, I've been thinking about the public. I think that the public, the first big headline is the public feels that they're part of the city again, that this is their city.
So what's the headline?
Everyday mayor hands the keys to the city, to the public.
Okay.
No, that's not a very good headline.
The editors will punch it up a little bit. But
I hope they do.
If I randomly asked a Morden resident to rate you from 1 to 10 as mayor, what would they tell me?
A 9.
9.
Yeah. And why? Because the swimming pool is still not built in Morden. It's taking an awfully long time. But the city's books are really, really good, and they're tight. It's a really well-run city. It runs on half the public works per capita as the city of Winnipeg does. And I don't want to spend too much time on that because, again, we've discussed that there are some aspects to running a bigger city that might take a higher per capita investment of labor.
Well, I wish you luck on the campaign, Doug Wilson. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to get to talk to you. I've heard nothing but great things from all the candidates.
It's been good. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, too.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jenny Motkaluk is the next mayoral candidate as we continue on with this special Winnipeg Votes edition of the show. Well, thanks for joining us, Jenny. Appreciate your time.
Well, Jeremy, I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, admittedly, I spend a lot of time outside of Winnipeg. My time is split between Manitoba and California. But what I did hear about this campaign is you came out of the gate early, and you were one of the first to make campaign pitches. Tell me about the timing, though, because why did you feel that you needed to get ahead of the pack, and can you keep the momentum going? It's a lot to promise and say during the campaign.
Well, that's for sure, and that's a really great question. I'm grateful to be on your show today because I do have an objective of speaking to all of the people in Winnipeg so that they can understand what my vision and values are and why I think I will be a better leader than the one that we have today. But to answer your first question, why did I come out so early? In Winnipeg, incumbency is a very powerful thing. And in fact, the last time that an incumbent mayor was defeated, which is to say, the incoming guy just didn't get reelected, the last time that happened was in 1962. And that's because, and it was done by a fellow called Steve Juba, who became the mayor of Winnipeg in that election. But all to say that what we're trying to do is really to make history. And we need all the runway and all the resources that we can get to do that. So that's why I came out of the gate so early on the very first day. In fact, I was the first person to register as a candidate for mayor. And my momentum and my team and my strength have been growing since then. And now, as of this taping, we've got 25 days to go. And Winnipeggers are going to be seeing and hearing a lot more from me over these next 3 weeks because I absolutely believe that we are going to make history together.
When every candidate unveils a platform, they often face criticism. And you can react one of two ways, right? You can either stick to your guns, even though people say you are wrong, or you could take that back and say, you know what, I should make adjustments. So what have you done? Because I know that you've made comments about fixing Winnipeg Transit and the 311 system. Are you right, or are the critics right? Like, when do you know if you should shift your stance on something?
Well, the first thing, that's a great question. And, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take it up one level higher.
Okay.
I'm a business consultant. That's my job. And consult is a verb. It's something that we do. It means that we talk to other people and we get good ideas and good advice. So I have a lot of experience with consulting, and it's the model for how I do all of the great things that I've ever been able to be a part of. So as I went through this process of putting together a policy platform, the very first thing that I recognized is that no one person, myself included, is an expert in all of the municipal issues that are facing us: public safety, economic development, snow shoveling, road building. Nobody is. We can't be. The job of mayor is to be a leader. The job of mayor is not necessarily to be an expert in all of these different areas. But with that said, it's very important that we seek some expertise in all of the issues that we need to make decisions on. And so I have a process that I go through, and I've used the same process in all of my policy development so far, which is to say, I identify all of the stakeholders around a particular issue. So let's take public safety as an example. We know that public safety is the number one concern for Winnipeggers right now because, frankly, security of person is our most important human right. Mm-hmm. And if we're not delivering that in Winnipeg, we're never going to achieve the other visions. So that said, knowing public safety was important. I made a list on a piece of paper of all of the people that I would like to talk to about public safety. And that list included current police officers. It included former police officers. It included the leadership of the police union. It included former Chief Devon Clunas. It included social service delivery agencies like Main Street Project and the Indian Métis Friendship Center. So the list has to be as complete as you can. All of the people who have knowledge or are affected by the issue are the ones that you need to consult. And we can't be afraid to talk to people that might have a differing opinion from us. In fact, it's very important that we do that. So when I identified all those folks, and I was fortunate enough that they all agreed to meet with me, I went and I asked them all the same question, which is, what can we do right now with the money we have to make things better? That's the question that I think all Winnipeggers want answered on all of the issues. And when I went out and I had those conversations, what ends up happening is you very quickly find there's usually one or two things that everybody, even the most vocal opponents of each other, will agree on. And that's usually the best place to start. So all of the public safety announcements that I have made so far, which include a long-term strategy of improving the relationship between the police and the next generation of Winnipeggers by enhancing our school resource officer program, and the things that we need to do right now to stop the bleeding, like the short-term solutions, like creating, not just increasing, but creating an emergency detox facility for where people who are high on meth can be detained and then offered treatment. All of those policies came to be as a result of these conversations. And so I have an immense amount of confidence in the expertise and the skills and the enthusiasm and the motivations of Winnipeggers, because we all want the same thing, which is to live in a thriving and happy and prosperous city where there's hope and opportunity and dignity for everybody.
So have you retooled or readjusted any of your promises or campaign platforms based on feedback that you've heard from people since unveiling it?
Well, the short answer to that is no. And it's not to say that I'm not willing to hear additional feedback and I'm not willing to learn new things. And I'm not I'm not so set in stone that I can't take good advice when it comes. In fact, my process is all about seeking good advice. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I have been very thorough in the advice seeking or the consultation phase of policy creation. And so I have an immense amount of confidence that everything that I've unveiled so far and that everything that I will unveil over the next 3 weeks is going to be three things: in the best interests of Winnipeg, in the best interests of Winnipeggers, and something that is practical and implementable, which is to say something that we can do. I think the biggest contrast between Brian Bowman and myself is that Mr. Bowman likes to talk about big visions, like...
Jenny, I'm going to interrupt you here because we're not here to do that. I want you to talk about you and your campaign and what you're going to do for Winnipeg.
Okay, no, I'm glad that you entered. That's fine. So what I want Winnipeggers to know about me is that I believe in big visions too. I believe in moving forward to accomplish a great big goal. But what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, how can we do that? So it's one thing to have a lofty ideal, but really, if you have a dream without a plan, it's never going to be realized.
Okay, so I'll jump back in here. So let me ask you then, because lots of promises, we always hear promises from everybody. It's not just you, and I get that. My concern, especially as Winnipeg cheapskate, is the money has to come from somewhere. You talk about generators, you talk about, transit overhauls and things like that. I get that if you want to make upgrades, it's just like to my house. It's going to cost me more. That makes sense. So is your plan to charge me more as a Winnipegger? You mentioned that you want to do more with the money that currently exists. What is your plan? Is it going to cost me more to live in Winnipeg with Jenny Motclick as my mayor?
I guarantee you that it will not cost you more to live in Winnipeg if Jenny Motclick is your mayor than if the incumbent is your mayor. And the reason I say that is this. When we spend money, it's a matter of priorities, right? It's no different than your household economy. Mm-hmm. You've only got so much money in your paycheck, and the question is, are you going to buy a case of beer or are you going to buy groceries? Sometimes that's a decision that we make. And governments have to make those same decisions. So while it's true that I have made an awful lot of promises about what I would like to see done in Winnipeg, I think one of the themes that I haven't done a good job of communicating or it's just not been captured yet in all of this, is that it's not about where are you going to get the money. We have money. The question is, who's going to spend it better? And, for example, we talk about those backup generators. Well, to install a backup generator at all 77 stations right now, today, if we did it right now and put in the order, it'd be about $1.5 million to do that. And today, there is something like $3 or $4 million that is already committed, which is to say already planned to be spent, on Portage and Main. So what's our top priority? Opening an intersection to pedestrians or not putting poop in the river? All I'm talking about is a shift of priorities. I have actually not really announced any brand new spending projects, including the buses. And I know that would, if people have been following the campaign, it was, well, what about your buses? $500-odd million to transform the fleet into a fully electric fleet and to add 30% more buses to the roads.
Let me ask transit then, because we're short on time here. Transit, as you know, as you just said, is a big hot button issue. I was sent a screenshot the other day from a bus stop close to downtown. The timestamp says 4:51 p.m., so afternoon rush hour. 13 of the 16 buses are labeled as late, and I know the Winnipeg Sun newspaper, they gave stats, this was, I guess, earlier in the summer, about, transit's always late, it's never on time. The city can't really give definitive numbers or on things or whatever it was. So what is the problem? What's the solution? Is it downtown traffic? Is it more buses? Is it more drivers? Is it focus on traffic signals?
If I can, I'm glad you asked the question. The fact of the matter is, because the city has had such a focus on building dedicated bus roadways, a specific one, the Southwest Corridor, right? What's had to happen is we put all of our effort and energy into that while starving out our basic service. The basic transit service has received a little bit less money. We have less capacity in the system, like in terms of the number of people that can get on a bus at any one time, less today than we did in 1988, 30 years ago. And so that's why my transit solution, I believe, is such a good idea. There's three elements to it, right? One is, what do we really want transit to be? And I know that an effective transit system is frequent and reliable and safe. That's what it is. And today, Winnipeg Transit is none of those things. So we have to fix that. And the way to fix it is to get more buses on more routes more often so that more people get where they want to go in a less amount of time, and we need to make sure that they're safe while they're doing it. And so that was the objective that I set out with when I started investigating transit.
So how often
I believe that my solution will allow for that. And so what I'm talking about is replacing the fleet, growing the fleet by 30% over the next 6 years, transforming it to all electric, which means that we're going to reduce our operating costs by like $25 million a year on fuel alone, which is going to be more than enough money to pay for the extra drivers that we're going to need for the 30% more buses. And we're going to put those buses to work on the roads that we already have, picking the people up in the places that they are already.
And so how often do you take the bus?
I am not a bus rider. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I am not a choice rider. I'm not one of these choice riders that I talked about earlier, right? But I have been
I should point out,
a rider in my life when I lived in Vancouver and Montreal.
Let me point out that you're also referring to a conversation we had prior to going on the air. So choice rider is...
It's an industry-defined term, and choice rider means somebody that uses transit by choice because they had an alternative means of transportation, whatever that might be, usually a car. And I have been a choice rider in my life when I lived in Montreal and in Vancouver. And what that means is that I took transit and left my car at home because it was better and faster to take the bus or the subway or whatever than it is to use the car. That's how you convince people to leave their cars at home, is by making it faster and better.
So
the only way that we're going to do that is if we improve the frequency, the reliability, and the safety of the service.
So you would convert yourself into being a bus rider then, as mayor?
On today's Winnipeg transit system, there's no way.
No, I'm saying when you are mayor, you will be confident in the bus system, so you would take the bus?
Well, I have to implement it first, so that's not going to happen on the first day, right? But but the truth of the matter is that I would prefer to take the bus downtown, just like a lot of people, because parking downtown is difficult, it's expensive, it's all the things, right? The reason that I don't, and the reason that a lot of people don't, is because it takes so much longer to get there that the trade-off isn't worth it. And that's what we need to be considering. We need to be considering, how do we convince more people, or how do we make it, not convince the people, but how do we make it so that taking the bus is better and faster than it is to drive? That's how we're going to grow our transit ridership. And in my opinion, the immediate things that we need to do is get more buses on more routes more often. So
yes or no question, you will be riding the bus more frequently as mayor when you implement your changes? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And we just have a few quick short minutes before we've got to go. I want to ask, because I am a North Ender. I have a house in West Kildonan. I know you previously ran for city council, and this is, I'm not trying to take a shot at you. This is a legitimate question. How do you feel that people did not want you to be representative of their neighborhood now take that to represent the city? And again, I'm not taking a shot at you.
It's a great question, actually, and I'm super glad that you asked it. So it's true. First of all, I will confirm what you said. In 2010, I ran for city council in Mynarski. At the time, I also lived in West Kildonan, and that's why I chose to run in that ward. It's also, by the way, the same neighborhood that I grew up in. So I have a kindred affinity, if you will, to the area. And it's true, I did not win. Ross Eady became the councillor at the end of that election. He received about 40% of the vote, and I received about 30% of the vote. And I got to tell you, politics is, that was a steep learning curve. So that was my first experience with a political campaign. I had never done it before. And I was very proud of my result. There's a couple of things that I really, really appreciated. Well, first of all, it was a great learning experience. But, even though Ross Eady, and let's face it, even though in municipal politics we're not associated with parties, but, there's still the political spectrum. Ross Eady very much candidate of the left, which, frankly, the Mynarski ward in that area has elected NDP, MLAs, and MPs for decades and decades and decades. So that was a big, steep hill to overcome. And I was not a candidate of the left. In fact, I was viewed as a candidate of the right. And the thing that I am, besides the fact that in a wide open seat with, I think there were 8 or 9 candidates, the fact that I put in such a credible result and had a second place showing, I was really proud of. But the thing, when you dive into the analysis of the outcome, the thing that I'm even more proud of is which polls I won. Because the polls that I won are among Winnipeg's most difficult postal codes. I won the poll at Children of the Earth School, which you know where that is, right at the foot of the Salter Bridge.
Yes.
And I also won the poll at the Indian and Métis Friendship Center.
Jenny, I have 1 minute. So what makes you qualified to be mayor now?
I have done a lot of things for Winnipeg in my lifetime. Now, I want to start again. I didn't even like that answer. I know you have one minute left. But, what am I qualified to do as mayor is because I am a leader that believes in engaging all of the smartest people around me and getting them aligned to a common goal and getting out of their way so that we can make great things happen. That's the way that I've done all of the work that I've done in my consulting practice, and that is the way that I intend to lead the city of Winnipeg.
Give us a quick plug for your campaign website.
JennyForMayor.ca.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and good luck on the campaign, Jenny.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremy. It's good to talk to you.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Venkat Mattaraju is joining us on the line now to talk about his mayoral campaign. Hello there, Venkat.
Thank you, sir. I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, I know that you are an engineer, right? When Winnipeggers... Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please tell me.
I was going to say, Winnipeggers have a lot of complaints about the city, whether it's roads, whether it's buildings, bridges. So I guess an engineer might be a really good mayor. So tell me then, what makes you the ideal mayor?
I think one is, of course, being an engineer. Other being an honest person. I want to make sure that we tell something and do it. Mm-hmm. And of course, not to take up money where it is required for the wrong purposes.
And so you'll be able to identify, I guess, the problems and solutions, but a city is a big place, and there's a lot to focus on. So how hands-on will you be? Because, again, a city is not just about the buildings and roads. There's a whole bunch. Are you going to hire how involved will you be when it comes to your engineering skills?
Of course, engineering skill doesn't mean that I'm going to actually go and design them, but I can at least have some logical understanding about things. So what I notice is there's a lot of design problems in the city for roads. When they design something, it should be a long-lasting one. But if they design something and it's not very well designed and it's not given properly to good contractors, what happens is we squander the city's taxpayers' money. So what I want to do is be very sure that we're not really squandering the money from public works.
So in your opinion, is the problem right now that money is not being spent wisely? Is it not being spent in the right places? Are there poor planning decisions being made? What is your assessment?
My assessment is poor planning is happening and the contracts are not being allotted properly. That means the lowest bidder is not getting the contract. As a result, we are wasting lots of money.
And I'd like to know your thoughts on Winnipeg Transit, because that's a hot-button issue in Winnipeg. There's always a debate about rapid transit and dedicated bus lanes, full buses, late buses. What is your plan to fix transit, and how long do you think it would take?
It might take a few years. What we want to do is, what I felt was that there was $500 million spent on the rapid transit. But I think more urgent need is there are more people using the roads. So what we could have done that is put that money into our roads. And then what we could have done is maybe allotted a special priority lane to the bus with a priority signal. Mm-hmm. Because our roads are the worst and most people are driving still in Winnipeg.
So I guess downtown, though, already does have those priority signals, but buses are historically late from the numbers that I've seen, and I have looked at many different screenshots from apps to see that the majority of them during rush hour are late. So those signals aren't necessarily helping. What's your solution for that?
I think one of the problems is that the lanes of the buses should be very strictly implemented, that they should maybe just check nobody is using them during that rush hour.
What about the roads that it's just not physically possible to have a dedicated lane? How are you going to get the buses moving quicker on those streets?
there are some roads which we can't do it. So I think, but I still feel we have to look into a larger plan for many decades to come, and that's what we thought of. My main platform is to have a inner ring road expressway inside the city.
So right now
Bishop Brandon.
But right now you don't have a specific solution then for fixing every single bus in the city.
That will be, I think, a long-term plan. I think I heard that other cities overhaul the whole timing of the buses and they're running smoothly in other places.
Right. Yeah, no, and I understand. And really, again, what I'm just asking is, obviously you're not expected to be Superman to fix every problem right away. I get that. But I guess I'm just wondering then, we all know it's a big challenge. Where do you begin to start chipping away at the ice? And what are some of the big decisions you need to make to get us there? So how long, you're saying probably more than 3 years, how long do you think to get...
I think what we are proposing is to bring an inner ring road like an expressway, which includes Kenaston, Bishop Brandon, Large Moriarty, Chief Peguis Trail. All these roads we want to build a 5-lane way, both ways, and then have no signals but overpasses. It's a long-term project, but we have to look into long-term project because Winnipeg is expanding. And the reason is we are built in 1960s with 200,000 population. Now we have 800,000 plus we are a hub for another 300,000. So what I feel is we should prepare our city for the future also and for the present needs. The building an expressway first will be the most important priority what I want to make it for myself.
How expensive are these projects? If you could give me a price tag for your campaign promises, how much would that be?
I think the price tag will be, of course, what I want to say is we almost collect $500 million every year on our road tax.
How much are you going to spend? Right. So the question is, how much are you going to spend to fulfill your campaign promises?
This is not going to just happen in just 3 or 4 years. It might take some time.
Right. But if you were to give me a dollar amount,
funding for it, year by year we should start building it.
So, but let me give you an example. If I plan to build a cottage near Gimli, I need to know how much that's going to cost me to get the job done. So you've made these promises. I'm assuming then that you have crunched the numbers. Like how much would this cost you to achieve everything on your list of campaign promises? How much would that cost in total?
What I feel is that some are very basic necessities of life. So suppose somebody want to go and buy something like a milk or something, and that's a very essential item of their life. The cost is a cost, but we have to find ways to support it.
So what again, Venkat? I'll ask again then. If I'm going to take on a major project, I need to know how much money it's going to cost me and what I'm willing to spend. So how much will this cost you to go through your campaign?
We have to call. I think you're right. We have to call all the architects and ask them to give us an estimate, whatever be the cost, but we still have to find ways to implement it.
Right, implementing is one thing.
I'm thinking is,
sure, I hear you on that. But
I'm thinking is because traffic is a real disaster for Winnipeg. Everybody is complaining about it, so we cannot tell this is costing too much and we are not going to do it.
For sure,
we have to do it
no
matter what.
For sure. So what will that give me a price tag? Give me a dollar amount to fix that.
I think it'll be a big amount.
Can you give me a so again, like I say, if I'm going to buy a car, I know that I've got $10,000 to spend. I'm not going to go outside of what I can afford. So just can you give me a dollar amount for your campaign promises? I've gone to your site. I've looked at your list of things. How much will it cost you to make all of those changes?
I think that I still didn't go into detail, but what I believe is that if you can get $500 million for the money collected for gas tax and road tax, if you can divert all of that amount, it will be possible to do it in a few years.
Okay. So what I'm hearing then is you haven't done the math and you won't give me necessarily an estimate as to what your plans will cost. Is that correct?
Because
That's
if you
correct.
start telling the numbers now, nobody will believe it also.
Okay. All right. And what is the campaign website so people can get more information?
It is Pandit Venkat for mayor.
Okay. Well, Venkat, I appreciate your time, and thanks so much, and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Mayoral candidate Umar Hayat is joining us on the line to talk about his campaign. Hello there, Umar.
Hi, thank you so much, Jeremy, and good afternoon, Winnipeg.
Let's talk about your vision for the city, because it sounds like you want to reduce spending across the board. Let's just bring everybody up to speed. So you're against opening Portage and Main to pedestrians. You call rapid transit $1 billion of, and these are your words, reckless waste. So tell me two things. Where do you feel the city is wasting the most money right now, and how would you reduce the spend, and where would that money go?
Excellent. Thank you so much, first of all, for listening me. Portage and Main, of course, we hadn't spent right now, but we're going to be spent $15 million. And it's total ridiculous and a stupid word I'm using for opening Portage and Main. I talked to thousands, Winnipeg, from last 5 months in my whole campaign, and trust me, numbers actually shows 80% Winnipeggers they don't want. But if you ask my opinion, because numbers sometimes are wrong too, because most of people, they do not tech savvy, they do not have a cell phones. So I talked to thousands Winnipeggers. From my understanding, 90 to 95% Winnipeggers, they don't want to open Portage and Main. One thing. Second thing, I'm going to tell you the issues quick. It's a huge traffic congestion. I did by myself from last 5 months Portage at Portage and Main every day. When I took from Sherbrooke to Portage and Main, it takes me 45 minutes in rush hours. And each pedestrian need 45 seconds to 60 seconds to cross through. So it would be huge mess. And it used to be was opened in 1978 when we had 500,000 Winnipeggers. And Winnipeg police chief told me in that time he deployed 2 cops in rush hours, morning and afternoon. So now we have 800,000 Winnipeggers. I'm going to simple. If you can go to my website, there's a tons of studies I did by myself. I did not hire consultants. So you can see why it's a terrible idea for even businesses going to be filed bankruptcy, traffic congestion, safety of the Winnipeggers, and tons of more things. So now I'm going to come to the topic. Why Winnipeg, your question was asking me, for example, yesterday, one of the print media, they called me and they asked me, Omar, what's your standing on property taxes? So I said, you know what, I'm giving 1% to local street repair, 1% at regional street repair, and I'm saving 0.33%, which my incumbent already announced 2.33% property taxes. So actually my idea is 2%. So thanks for print media. They acknowledged me that we borrowed the money 0.33% for next 30 years. So no one is talking about right now the finances. When this mayor, my incumbent, came into power, we had $900 million debt. Jeremy, I'm okay. My voice right now. Are you in a line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I love to tell Winnipeggers because media is not giving the numbers. When this mayor came into a power, my incumbent 2014.
I'm gonna
$900 million debt.
Let me interrupt. I want to know what you're going to do. So let's. This time is about you. Now I want to know what you are going to do to reduce the spending and where the money is going to go instead.
Excellent. Simple is that I'm not extended rapid transit. You already checked the reckless spend of money, and it's already being done. So in 2020, when it's going to be all contracts are over, I'm not going to extend into east side or anywhere. First of all, I'm going to stop rapid transit. So what my idea is to give more routes, we had no, first of all, regular routes in Winnipeg. Like, for example, San Vidal to Sannaboyne and because I talk to Winnipeggers, we do need regular routes. Mm-hmm. And we do need to give a break. Over fare right now, $2.95. It's pretty high.
So let me ask you, though, so regular routes is one thing, reducing the transit fare is another, but the big concern is that buses are running late and they're running full. So it sounds like there's a lot of people needing to use the routes.
Yeah, I'm interrupting you. Actually, ridership is going down. It's not full.
Nevertheless.
And there is a study. You can go there. There's a study. And I'm the witness. You would be very surprised.
If
in the last 5 months, I'm the only actual candidate who did campaigning inside the Winnipeg.
So let me take...
You can go to, please.
Sure, let me finish my question, if I may.
Sure.
So the complaint that transit riders have is that buses are full, they're late, and they're going right by because the drivers can't pick up more people. So my question to you then is, those routes seem to be very well traveled. So why would you have additional routes then? Is it to give people more options to get from one place to the other? Because it sounds like these routes are popular, the ones that people are getting late for work every day.
Excellent. For example, Route 90. There is all Winnipeg southwest or southeast part of the city. I would say southwestward properly. But there is all commercial buildings and we have tons of employers. They have employees over there. We have no specific route. Even people from San Vidal to go to Sannaboyne, they don't have route. And so many more routes. If you're going to go to my website, so you can see that, yes, sometime for this point, Winnipeggers are right. We do not have proper routes. And the routes, what we have currently, I'm sure you know that this my current incumbent in 2018, he cut 53 routes already. And one time, he going to be spent billions of dollars to rapid transit. It's a simple sense. It's not a big science to know.
Again, but
we need to give them basic
here's the thing.
First, so they can easily go to work. And I hear this problem everywhere.
Omar.
For example, I went to talk to Kid Art City. One gentleman over there, he's actually working volunteer. He said he go to work at Winnipeg North, Kevin High School, and he takes 4 different routes to go to his job. I talked to one more gentleman day before yesterday on a live debate. He lives in North End and he need to go to work in South End. He just told me the same story. And the problem, you know what, in Winnipeg right now, we do need low-income bus pass. Sorry, I'm just going to be off the track, which is no one is talking right now. Low-income bus pass. And it's actually not burden on economy.
But
It's going to be health economy. And I'm not the only one. Go to see Ottawa. Go to see Calgary.
Omar.
Go to see Montreal. What they did.
But what are you going to do, though, is my question. What are you going to do to make my bus get me to work on time?
Excellent. Talk to all Winnipeg unions related to transit and Winnipeg, even actual buses guys and related to all professionals. Sit down with them, and it's not a job, it's a passion. Open City Hall for 7 days.
So let me ask you then. So your plan is to talk to people. So you don't actually have a plan yourself.
No, talk to the people who are related into the industry. And we do have a 640 buses. All is miscommunication. If the buses are going late, I agree. But why not go to sit down with them and talk to them? What is the problem? To get more buses and put into electric is a different idea. But my plan is this. Just go remove the communication and ask them, what is the problem to buses going late in time?
So so again, I just want to clarify, I'm understanding your answer correctly. Your answer for making buses run on time is to talk to people. So you don't actually have a solution right now, though, to physically go and make it happen.
No, again, I said, frankly speaking, I'm sure you understand, communication barrier.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure. I want to know.
I said related with the professional, like Winnipeg Transit Union.
Let me rephrase the question then. If I said to you, Umar, I need to get to work tomorrow on time, you would tell me, how will you get me to work on time? Talking to people is not going to make that happen. An app is not going to make that happen.
24/7 construction, my idea.
Okay.
If you relate to this thing into there, 24/7 construction, buses is late because construction, my incumbent started 225 construction sites in Winnipeg at the same time.
Okay.
So my idea, which I'm talking to Winnipeggers all summer, 24/7 construction. So 24/7 construction means do not open 10 sites, That's not a Winnipeg Winnipeg Transit's fault. That's some City Hall's fault. They started 225 sites at the same time in Winnipeg because he understands he wants to make a champion to fix up the roads, but he don't understand that people are even a Winnipeg Transit. I'm going to specifically come to your topic.
Again,
buses
sorry.
are stuck on the roads.
Omar, we're not. I'm going to make it clear that we're not here to mudsling and we're not here to bash others. I need yours.
24/7 construction. So do not open 10 sites. Open 2 and 3. Fix them up quick, and then you can go to dig out more sites. You can't dig out the whole city at the same time.
So tell me, what do you feel is a priority when it comes to the bus infrastructure? Because some of them have Wi-Fi, some of them don't even have air conditioning. What would you do to the actual buses?
You know what? We already spent $67 million subsidized, and we have a $89 million deficit.
So what will you do? Well, sorry.
Until I can go to check all financial statements, we have very limited information on City of Winnipeg website.
But I want to know what would be your priority for buses. You've talked to people. You say, I want to know. Would you put more Wi-Fi? Would you put air conditioning in all of them? What will you to?
No, my idea low income. Sorry to say, buses. People they can go to work. They need to reduce transit fare, which I already said $2.95 side. It's too much. I already did reduce back into the same fare, $2.70.
Okay, so
and I did also made one more announcement for low-income single mothers, $500,000 to them.
Sure, you're not answering my question. So my question though is, what will you do to the actual buses? Will you put air conditioning in all of them? Because that's almost a necessity in the summer. Do you feel they need Wi-Fi? I don't want to know about bus fare. I'm asking the actual buses themselves. Will you make any changes to them?
No.
So ones that do not have air conditioning, it will stay that way. A sweltering, sticky, uncomfortable mess. That's fine?
You know what? I can't make any promise so far until I have to fix the physical deficit for the city.
No, I'm not asking you to make a promise. I just want to know, because if you've talked to anybody who has taken a Winnipeg transit bus in the summer that does not have air conditioning, they're going to tell you it's not a pleasant experience. So I just want to you feel that.
It has to be fixed. But if I put new air conditioner on it, it costs taxpayers money. So I'd like to sit down and actually know how much it costs to get the air conditioner. Before making any promise, I'm going to know the cost of the project.
Okay. Well, Umar, we're out of time. So what is your campaign website so people can check out more information?
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. UMAR, Umar, FOR for MAYOR, umarformayor.com, and only for labor cost, I'm saving $6 million yearly.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to increase 0.25% labor yearly, because right now $840
Umar, we're out of time.
Labor cost.
I have to go.
Winnipeg.
Umar, we have about 10 seconds. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck on the campaign. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Umar. Take care.
Bye.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's Jeremy Bradley back here on The Scribble. I want to thank the 7 of 8 candidates for Winnipeg's mayoral election of 2018 for joining us today. Again, at the top of the show, I mentioned that Ed Ackerman was invited to participate, but however, we could not arrange a time to tape an interview. All of these interviews were taped at the end of September. Obviously, it's now mid-October. Some platforms have been reintroduced or introduced, and maybe some have changed over time. So I just want to give you that disclaimer that these interviews were taped at the end of September. One other thing is that each of these interviews heard on the Scribble podcast today has been edited for time. Each one of them has been edited for time. But with full disclosure, we have made available every interview in its entirety on our website. You can go to winnipegvotes.com or thescribbleshow.com, which is the main Scribble website, and you can hear each individual candidate's interview in its entirety. So we wanted to do that in fairness so that nobody can say, oh, you edited what I said and what have you. My argument would have been if you just answered the damn question, we wouldn't have had this issue. But that's just how politicians are, right? Anyway, my thanks. I great respect for everybody who did participate, and I do appreciate them answering my questions, because I said at the top, I'm not a political reporter, and I told each one of them that. I'm just a regular voter who wants to know where you stand on issues. So remember to get out there and vote, Winnipeg. Thank you so much for tuning in to this 2-hour edition of The Scribble. I hope you made it through, because it was a long 2 hours. And remember to get out there and vote. And my thanks to the regular Scribble audience. If you did actually listen to this and you're not from Winnipeg, you're an awesome person. I'm back next week right here on The Scribble for our 30-minute edition, where I'm going to chat about current events and who knows what's going to happen. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Talk to you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,